Hello, everyone, which in this case right now is one person. Welcome all. I wanted to do a live broadcast. Happy Sunday to you too, Adriana, Tina. Hello again, Tina. It's been a few weeks. Hope everybody is doing all right. I'm going to try to sit up here. I'm just lounged against my guest room because it's the place I just got through cleaning. Thank you, Sumeria. Thanks, Tina. I appreciate that. Last video we covered what we're feeding off of and our outlook in terms of how we ration our self-control. I'm an offender for pulling up multiple tabs, and I can always think of something else in one tab that I need to do that adds to something I'm doing. So I have like 13 tabs open. I'm a Mac person, so this new computer seems to handle it. So let's see. Hello, Mark. Hello, Victoria. 7 pounds last week. That's really good. I remember those 7 and 9 pound weeks. You won't have them too often. After you get past a certain point, they go away because you're not carrying as much weight and your body starts getting rid of the water, and then it starts to taper off, but it's good while it's there. It's really, really motivating. It's definitely true that it's motivating. So today I wanted to go over a few of the comments. I can't reply to all of the comments because they come to me randomly throughout the week, and sometimes I'm in a business meeting or something. I used to, when this channel was a little smaller, I could just pop open the phone and make a quick reply, but I don't get to do that as much. Better Videos Tube said hello from South Carolina. I am down 15 pounds and appreciate your time and talent. Thank you for that. 15 pounds, when next time you're at a gym or something, pick up a 15-pound dumbbell to give you an idea of how much weight that is. That is a lot of weight to carry on you. Same thing was 20 and 30. That's a good workout for a dumbbell. So then that was what you were carrying on your body, and you got rid of it. Thank you, Sumeria. I ate starches and good stuff all day. Almonds, peanuts, I'm just sharing what I ate today because I have the rest of my tea. This is actually, what is in here is not coffee. These are the Time-Wise gas station mugs that I got for $3.99, and I keep one to take to work. But I put it, instead of with coffee today, I have a friend at work whose wife is actually from China, and she has the tea leaves that are separate. You have to cook them and strain them, wash them and strain them, and it is amazing how much of a boost you get. It's not like you feel like you've had a whole bunch of coffee. The caffeine is so strong, but the clarity, you just feel good when you drink it. And I'm gonna show it to you at some point. Original Chinese tea. Hold on, let me go get it. Right here. There's the leaves in there. You have to catch them. Oh, this is hard. They just fall right out and into water, and you have to strain them. But I have a friend who gets them from China, and they're actually collected by a family that is there. And they're bagged up just in those. You have to take them, you wash them, and then you use them for tea. They're way better than American tea, and I mean any tea. And I like tea. You guys have seen this channel, oolong. I love oolong white tea. I love green tea. black tea. I love all of those. So it's really, really helpful. If I can direct everybody's attention, therefore, to some of these comments. Look at this. This is really funny stuff, some of it. So I picked some of the most bizarre ones. First one is this. I hate you whites, but respect your channel. It's on 3 ways to make your OMAD journey easier, just so you don't think I'm making it up. The comment is by Daniel L. It says, I hate you whites, but respect your channel. I wonder what would have happened if I had said, I hate blacks, but I respect your channel. How would that have gone with the double standard there? Just curious. That is one of the weirdest comments. I don't usually get some of the super hate that the really big YouTubers get. I usually get really good comments, but every once in a while I get one like that that's just ridiculous. Luke says, thanks for helping me lose 95 pounds. That is really, really good. 95 pounds. That's like a whole small person. That is really good. You're right there, man. That's awesome. How much do you have to go still, or have you arrived where you want to be? $95 pounds is a lot. Let's talk about blood sugar. I still get questions on blood sugar from people, and then I get I'm going to do a separate video for looks comments. I get looks comments, and it's some of the weirdest stuff because people have, it's funny what people say. Let me go back to this video on blood sugar. Where was it? Because some of you I know do struggle with various aspects of blood sugar control. Here it is. By fasting, feasting, foodie, 1 week ago on Does OMAD Raise Blood Sugar Levels? So here's what I can tell you. In my earliest videos on this were absolutely correct. You will always maintain better blood sugar levels if your foods are carb or protein dominant. So if you have fats and proteins, you put them together, you make that 80% of the meal. If you have a lot of carbs, even if they're starches and just simple carbohydrates, you will find that you still have lower blood sugar than if you don't. Go back to this. I had the video up and then my phone went off or something. Here it is. That's after, it's 10, are you seeing it right? Yeah, it's 106. So this was on August 31st, a while back. But the point is this: you will have this. This was after eating corn and pasta and maybe just 1 or 2 nuts. But and I had a juice. I think I had a cranberry juice. I had a normal dinner. It hied out at about 106. The point is, you won't spike as high if you have dominant meals that are carb versus fat, basically, because your body is going to prefer one or the other because they're competing fuel sources. So that's the thing there. That's what's to remember on that point. But to answer the question, I do check. I don't regularly check blood sugar, but because I don't need to. I'm not diabetic. I have good blood sugar control, but I do periodically, and I get a yearly physical, which, by the way, is coming up again. I'm going to do a video of it. All right, what did I miss? James says, I have reached my, I think you meant Plateaus. For 2 months, you reached plateau. For 2 months on OMAD, but I'm stable, but no weight loss. I also swim 4 times a week, every time, still no weight loss. Now I go to the gym 4 days a week. I need to know more about what your how active you are. Sometimes if you're too active, you will not lose as much weight. It's one of the oldest things. If you're trying to lose weight, um, and you're swimming and you're putting in activity, you'll find that if you drop it, you'll probably lose more. But I don't know for sure because I don't know your circumstances. You can reach out to me for more. But if your body is stressed out, you'll hold on to weight and you'll lose a lot slower. It's always that way. A 2-month plateau also, if it's truly 2 months, then you definitely are not burning off what you're taking in, not efficiently. If your body's trying to gain, is this all just weight reduction and doing stuff like swimming that requires you to be thinner? If it is, then you need to reevaluate your meals. But sidebar me on that if you need a little extra guidance. Luke says, I started at 325. I'm down to 230. I've been watching your channel for a year. That's great, man. That's really great. So you're knocking it out of the park. Sausage Lord said, excellent video on fat acceptance. Keep up the great work. I wish we had more people like you in the world. The video on fat acceptance, I thank you for that. I did get a good bit of flack from it, but it's kind of interesting what I'm calling out. And nobody is saying that anybody should be insulted, but anytime we put special class status on something, we're asking for trouble. And that's what I wanted to address in the video, because that's the problems. That's the problem. And when I get people that get offended, it's usually has something to do with their mindset, that they are in a situation where they're constantly seeking validation from everyone else. The same way when they go to lose weight, they're looking for motivation from everybody else. And they want to maintain this status that keeps them at a certain level so that they can say, well, I'm this way. Motivated people are motivated from within. Epic do videos. Hey, Joe, are you married or in a relationship? I am divorced and I am currently out of a relationship. I just got done with a very short-lived relationship again. So I am fledgling along and enjoying my solitude for the moment. But I'm, that's an open question. So I'm very quirky and weird. So when I come along and I find someone who can understand me, I think it's a good day. But that's what I'll say about that. I am, kind of on the market again. Not that I like to share too much on that, but it's that to answer your question. Elisa Lewis says, thank you for sharing your experience on OMAD. It brings me to tears with gratitude. Well, thank you. I know exactly how it feels to be a slave to food, and I know the emotional injury that usually comes before that. So people who have difficulties with their eating, it's usually because of some other trauma, which is probably what you're referring to. You talk about being brought to tears. Everybody who's been watching this channel knows that a lot of my early binge eating habits were created by a teacher who abused me in class. And it was one of the scariest things I ever encountered. How do you, what brings somebody to attack a 5-year-old? Why would somebody do that? But I found that the comfort I took in binging made me feel like I could escape. But of course, it set up a bad habit. It set many bad habits because over the years, it shaped how I started to misuse food. It's a really bad thing. That's what happened. And my experience, why not let my experience help you? And that's the way I think about it. So it just made sense when I was able to take hold of my life to let others share the experience. James says, I discovered mixing activities is the key after a long-term OMAD. I'd like to know more about your activities, James. A little bit more about your calories in, calories out there. T-Roz says, how many calories on OMAD? Well, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to lose weight? Are you looking to lose weight for any particular reason? Are you morbidly obese? Are you just slightly chubby? Are you looking just to do self-control, or to get a little bit more self-control? What is your goal, T. Ross? I can't tell you how many calories, because if you decide you want to be really, really active, OMAD may not be the best solution. It may, but it may not be. And I get contacted by so many people that have a high calorie demands. There's nothing wrong with doing more than one meal. These guys who are bodybuilders, I had one bodybuilder come to me, and he said he wanted to do OMAD because he didn't want to just start getting fat. And I'm not really qualified to help him on that, except to say, if you're not getting your calories, you're not getting protein, you're not going to be able to stay in the game. So he ended up going with a multiple meal, with 2 meals, basically 2 or 3, because he wasn't able to get enough calories. Most people, it's really hard to get 4,500 calories unless you're just going crazy eating, but then your body doesn't digest it as well. So generally, that's why I say fasting on the OMAD plan is kind of similar to calorie restriction in that it's a tool. It's a tool to monitor your intake. It just depends on your calorie needs. If you want, I was talking to a guy today. This was a 5'6" male he was about 20, 15 pounds overweight. He's got to stay at 1,200. He's normally active, 12 to 1,500. So depending on your height and your weight, you've got to calculate that for yourself. But that's a lot of times people come looking for answers on OMAD, and they want a tailored plan that is the same for everybody, and it's not. So your situation will be different than everybody else's. And you don't have to care about it every day. You only have to keep it in control. If you are getting too many calories, you'll know, because your losses will be slow. You won't have a whole lot of you won't have much to show for it. Also, it'll be easier. The harder it is, the better you're doing it. You're doing it more right, which is why I've always said it's a really bad idea to say that it's easy. I get people say, OMAD is easy. Well, if you're saying it's easy, you're probably not losing very much, because it's going to be hard, especially to start, if you're doing it right. Look for some of these other comments. So I'm reading, actually, for those of you just joining us, I'm reading over some of the comments on the YouTube channel that I didn't get a reply to. One of them was on the 8 days of OMAD meals. I appreciate the video, but ouch, the meals do not look healthy. I don't know how much explaining I'm going to have to do on all of those things. Meals will not always be healthy. If you are a food purist, you will have a very hard time, because you judge your entire life based on you're basically a food snob. I get so many food snobs, and they say, "Oh, that's terrible. Well, I would never eat this." Well, then don't eat it. But if you're really that way, it must be hard to travel. It must be really hard to do anything, because you won't ever settle for something that's not healthy. So if I show a meal that's not healthy, that doesn't mean that's my meal every day. And I still cannot get that through to some people. James says, I lost weight after mixing activities and muscle tone, lost over 48. My calories are 8 to 1,000 a day. I started OMAD with your experience of weight loss. People that know me are jealous. Oh, well, that's really good, James. I have a comment on moderation here. I'm going to go ahead and display. It's looks like the same individual I referred to earlier. People that are fat just need to effing work out. Stop excuses. Eat a quality meal a day. Drink water and stop whining. I like your absolutism there. Your desire to put it all together. Sometimes it's more complicated than that. Sometimes it's eating. Sometimes it's not really about the workout. It's just about staying active and not over consuming. But in the spirit of fat acceptance, yeah, ultimately a person has to take accountability for their health. They may not be washboard abs, but they can definitely be healthier. Ginger Platt says, I'm on day 6, so happy to have found you. Thank you so much. I have 15 pounds to lose, and I'm determined to stay on this. I'm in Austin. We're neighbors. Guess what? I was in Austin. I'm in Houston. Sorry to break that to you. So many hippies in Austin. But I moved down here 5 months ago. So down to North Houston. But I was on Oltorf area in Austin for a while. So actually you're still not that far. You're about 2.5 hours if you're anyway on there. But it's good that you're set on the way. Heard a joke, Better Videos Tube says, heard a joke, guy tells doctor he lost 250 pounds on a melted cheese over asparagus diet. Said he felt close to the Lord. Doctor said, if you stay on this diet, you will be shaking hands with him. Yeah. People talk more about binging. Please talk more about binging and getting back on track. I have another video I'm about to share on that with more tips for binging. Here's the tip for today, and I've shared this elsewhere. You make a decision. Anytime you're about to binge, you make a decision at some point in that day to do it. So when you get up that day, you may or may not think you have the resolve but when you see that food, when you think of that food, if you're honest with yourself, a thought comes into your mind that the bouncer up here approves it and says, look, you go ahead and do that. But you have to be really attentive to do it. Every single time I've ever chosen to binge, I've chosen to binge. It never hit me out of the blue to where I had to do it. If you're honest with yourself, it's like quality inspection on an assembly line. Here's this part, come to you, you put the stamp of approval on it and send it on down. It can't get to the end of the line without you approving it. So be honest with yourself. When you feel the first urge to binge, you have to, like I said in the last video, you have to completely kick its ass. You have to recognize it for what it is and realize that when you make that decision, on some level you have approved it. You said, okay, I'll let it go today because. And it doesn't matter how. You may not even be able to think of the reason behind it, but you will have given it permission. Please trust me on that and think about it, because it's always true. But I'd have another video coming on that with more to that. Daniel L says, I went from 6'1", 325, 275 now, still busting butt to reach 200. Man, if you just just stay the course, you'll get there. I remember how much fun it was when I was in my 3s, and I got up one morning in August of 2013, and guess what? 297.2. I was so excited. I was back in the 200s. I know that feeling. You got it. Sergio says, greetings. Is there a certain gene that determines when your body eats visceral fat versus muscle? Yes, look this up. It's called the PTEN, and it's a gene that is active in the bears that for some reason isn't active. We humans have it because we're mammals, but we don't have it active for some reason. So this is the gene that turns on insulin resistance, good insulin resistance, and tells it not to eat to eat your fat only and to block all insulin. So when your body starts edging out insulin, it blocks it and says, no, you're going to eat fat only. So that's why at the end of 5 months of fasting, a bear, because this strong gene is active, PTEN. You can look it up. They're growing research on it, but my mentor, the bear, is that's where it is. It comes from nature's finest achievement, which is, in terms of fat loss, they are the masters. There's no question of it at all. But look into PTEN. Because it's an imperfect process, there's always going to be, if you do significant fasting, there's going to be some muscle loss, which is why you can't do it forever. which is why now various days of the week I do days of feeding where I eat multiple times, because otherwise, as I age, I'm going to lose muscle mass. So there's always going to be, if you are losing weight, it's good to get your weight off with a direct approach and then go into building your body up. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Make sure you're staying active. Don't obsess. But there's always going to be some level of, if you're losing fat, you're going to lose some muscle. And I know that I have taken flack for saying that, because certain people have come off and said you won't lose. That's not true. If you do prolonged fasting and you're going to drop 50 or 75 pounds, you will lose a little bit of muscle. But it's a small amount because of, I think, the hardware of the body. Bears have it the best because it's something like 0.004% is muscle and the rest is fat. So almost non-existent. They lose very little muscle compared to humans. But there's a gene in that, and if you read some of the literature, it's pretty fascinating at how efficiently we're set up. So let's say you lose 50 to 70, let's say you lose 75 pounds. About 5 or 10% of that may be muscle. So it comes at a cost, weight loss. That's why I said the dieting is a lesser of evils business in my cardinal principles video, because you are going to lose a certain level. It comes at a cost when you have to reduce, you have to downsize your operation. You have to convince your body, we have to go the other direction and be less rather than be more. So that is tough. It's tough to understand that. A lot of people think and I get criticism for this because people think weight loss is supposed to be healthy. It's only healthy in relation to letting yourself go. So if you just let yourself go, you're going to have horrible blood levels, cholesterol, fat, overweight, greater all-cause mortality. You're going to feel terrible. But if you lose weight, you're 90 times better than that. But yeah, still, it is a level of stress on the body. So just remember that. That's why you want to get your weight off you quickly, and you want to maintain. I believe, because I have found that it is a challenge. It's stressful on your body. Hello, I'm from London, England. I found you 2 weeks ago, and I've already lost 6 kilograms overweight, and I'm not even eating healthy. Yep, that's the way it goes. You start just like you're doing. You don't worry about it. You eat, and then eventually eating healthier comes naturally. Ginger says, I'm in Cedar Park, not a hippie. Oh, good. For those of you who are hippies, hey, you're good. You're good with me. I'm not a hippie. Some of these pro-pot, tattooed forearm, tongue ring, Austin types, that's a little bizarre for me. But I mean, what do I care? It doesn't matter. That's just me. But Victoria, to answer your question, Houston is very neutral. And I like that because it's humid, extremely humid. You may not think it could be worse than any other city like San Antonio, which is also humid, but it isn't. It's actually really humid because it's just you come down here and you can feel the moisture in the air. But it's cultural neutral. You have groups over here, demographics over here, and it's all so weirdly all together, but it's not together, that nothing is really identified. And it's trippy to me because I'm used to Austin. Austin is definitely, the whole weird thing where everybody's they all seem the same in Austin, despite wanting to be weird and different. Here, it's truly different. You get, different elements, but I do like it. I really like it. To answer your question, are you still lifting and trying to add muscle? Keto Trucker asks, yes, I am, but not as faithfully. I have just been messing around the last 2 weeks and haven't done anything. I have been really busy with work, so I have lost my way ever so slightly. I have increased my calories because it's just time to make sure I'm done with at least for now, I'm done with the fasting side of things. You can't fast forever, but it'll always be a part of my life. I do still fast. I do still eat once a day, certain days of the week. I don't. Chris says I don't want to miss any of these live chats. Did I miss the advance notification? No, I just decided tonight to do one because I realized this is another busy week. So that's what I know. But if you click the bell, the notifications bell, it should send you a notification as soon as I plan to do one. I'm sorry for the late notice. I need to plan this out like I used to. Do you measure your amount of food you eat? Not anymore. I just eat. I fix everything and then I start eating. I usually start with a juice. I'll do something like beets and grapes and apples, and have a really smooth, a really sweet, tall glass of juice about this tall, because that's really the nutrients. And sometimes I'll follow that down with a carrot juice, and then I'll have a series of legumes and rice and cabbage. And if I'm going to eat flesh food that day, I will eat sardines or tuna, or if I'm going to have meat, or I'll have normal foods. But when I'm just staying here at the house like I am this weekend, I didn't go anywhere. I just am I'm getting stuff done, and I'm eating. I had field peas, I had corn, I had cabbage, I had a whole big, about 4 or 5 bowls of different things. So just a whole bunch of natural food. I had almonds, walnuts, so basically everything. I don't even know. I don't even know if I didn't even divide it one way or another. Let's see. Let me go back. I think I missed a couple. But that's pretty much. I don't measure the amount of food I eat until my brain gives me a signal that says, "Okay, we're pretty good here." I am very high starch, high carb, predominantly. Again, unless I'm going to go out and do something normal. Some days I'll go out and stop at a Mexican restaurant and eat. Now, if I do that, I usually eat once, so that I make sure I never. If you just sit there and eat all the time, you're going to be, really terrible. You're going to start overeating. So, hi Sue, how are you doing? I give you some motivation. You gotta. That's why. Holler at me, okay? I remember Sue. Sue is a whole lot of fun. So, but I don't really. I'm at a point now where I don't have to track. It's not like I used to when I was in scarcity mode. I was in fasting mode. I would say, "Hey, here's a plate. I got to stick with that." I don't do that anymore. I might have, and if I'm eating cabbage and stuff like that and healthy stuff, you can have bowls and bowls of that, and it's not even going to touch you. It's not going to be. It's not going to do anything, because it's really hard to gain on stuff like that. It's hard to put stuff away like that. And when you do eat, you can have you can try this. For those of you who doubt it works, if you have a predominantly plant-based meal, it's really hard to gain any fat, even if you want to. If you have 3 huge meals of, let's say you do, you start out with some juices or smoothies, and then you move over to legumes. And let's say you do 3 meals, it is really extremely difficult to actually put on fat if you're not going to combine it with fat or proteins. Like I said, it's really difficult. But you can maintain that way by eating. And I find that I have to, if I'm going to eat healthy, that's kind of what I do. I can't really eat once a day, because I would have to sit there and just eat a lot of food. And I don't know. I'm at a point where I don't enjoy it as much anymore, and I don't feel like I need to do that. So, and that's the challenge here. You kind of move on from some of this stuff. You don't, it's really great when you're seeing how beneficial fasting is. It's one thing. When you need it, it's one thing. When you don't, it's just another thing. So, but it'll always be a part of my life for sure. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, Blood Raven says, this Durian Rider guy promotes overindulging and living a hedonistic life. My friends, most YouTube personalities are looking out for them. They are looking out for them. They really don't care about much of anything else. They just love talking about the personality that they're. What a time, right? They really don't care. In the case of Durian Rider, apparently he's a rapist or something. I don't want to spread rumors, but um, it was a really bad situation. You get these extremists like these vegans and keto and all of these crazy groupies. They start losing focus, and it's just as bad with the one with the other. It's just as bad with the keto people telling you you have to accept what they tell you. It's just as bad with the militant vegans promoting all of this new game changer stuff. It's the same sort of business. There's nothing wrong if you're either one of those, but you'll find that um, they're what they're giving you, and what might work for someone like Durian Rider, who's extremely athletic, would not work for an average person. If you go on and tell someone just to pig out on sugar constantly, that's really bad advice too. So, um, but Durian Rider and all of the freely drama a while back, I actually sat around and watched some of that. I could not believe the crap that I was seeing. It's just it's just crazy. But you'll find that there's very few, and as people are finding, there are very few genuine people on YouTube. Most of them are just out to make a name. They're just out to showcase themselves. That's all they care about. And yes, they happen to, have a message. Maybe 5 or 10, 20% of what they say is good, but the rest of it is just garbage. And I don't want to criticize anybody, but I have to sometimes because I keep getting back to the same thing. I'm just not sold on most people. I have to wonder how many celebrities that can afford to have all their food specially prepared for them do not fare better in the weight loss field. Many have chefs and attendants, but do poorly. Of course, I mean, and that's why you see, even if they do really well. Now, on that note, better videos, you'll notice that poverty affects the poor far worse than it affects, obviously, the rich because they're not struggling with it. But that's why I was in the grocery line the other day, and there was this African American family, and they were huge. I mean, like, just huge. And like to the point where you look at them like you do the double takes. You just look at them. I looked at their basket. I stopped by like to get some blueberries and toilet paper, and I forgot I needed a new light bulb because something burned out here. One or two things on the way home. I didn't think this would ever make it into a video. And I was completely shocked to see ho-hos. Everything in that basket was junk. So you look at how this affects the poor, it affects them a lot worse. Everything in there was junk. And they ordered like $200. And the old grandmas in the scooter got the little nose things that go in there so that because she could breathe. I would imagine she's about 4'10", 450. The wife, her daughter was about, I don't know, 350, close to as big, just younger, probably in her 30s, early 30s. The husband was walking, but had a lot of difficulty. He was probably 4 something. And then they're eating like this. So if you'll start to notice, and this gets back to the fat acceptance thing, you'll start to notice a lot of the people that want these exceptions and they want to be sympathized with do not take the measures to take care of themselves. So if you're going to have a meal with, Reese's and Dr. Pepper and a bag of M&Ms, can you at least just eat that and don't destroy yourself? Of course they can, but they don't. They don't. They choose not to. So, but you get the celebrities, and then you get those that just don't care. They move on. And it's not about the food. Ultimately, it's about the self-control. Hence this channel. Let's see. 31. So this Soladium Z asks, a certain, Daniel, his age, and says when you get over 40, it's a lot harder. And that's what Daniel may not be taking into account. It's talking about losing weight. The older you get, your body does slow down. So you can eat until you're full when you're 17 or 27, and you can just work out and you finish out the day like a champ. It does get harder. So the way you sympathize it now, the way you picture it now, maybe a little bit. You have to keep in mind, you approve some of these comments. Some of these come in and the filter gets too sensitive. Let me go back to where I was. Every once in a while, this little message or something will come in, and I'll see something pop up in the corner of I turned off notifications, but sometimes they still somehow make it through. Daniel says, I vow to stay sober and get healthier. Excellent. I'm 45 and it took me 7 months to lose 3 stone is 14.3 pounds. I forget how it breaks out. £42. No, it's actually a good amount. That's really good. It's really good. But yes, it's. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. It says that's a really good progress, Palladium. Daniel says, I don't believe in excuses. My buddy at gym is 73. He's moving, so that's great. And ultimately, everybody should stay active. I don't care what they do. Try working out when you weigh over 300 pounds and are 5'8". That's true. If you're, it's a lot different world, which is why when you're starting out, I don't recommend working out. Just start walking. Just walk. If you can, just to the bedroom, to the bathroom, and then eventually around the block. And then things like that. And then pretty soon you can do it longer. But you don't injure yourself. And a lot of times it's really hard. I couldn't work out. I could barely walk around the block at 360. I could barely walk around the block. And my block was about 0.6 miles at my San Antonio house. And I could barely do it. I would get back and my feet would be numb. I would get that tingly feeling that big people get in their legs and on their thighs. My inner thighs would be really burned. I felt terrible. But then eventually, after I dropped 20 pounds, it was a lot easier. And then when I got under 300, I was ready to go. I felt really good. When I got to 257 or something, I added back in exercise. So I did a little bit more riding the bike, getting out there, just still mostly calisthenic. But you have to be careful as a big guy. Daniel, you're not there yet. Once you hit 39, 40, your body's going to start going through changes where you can still keep pushing it, but you can't let yourself go. You won't heal as fast as you imagine you might. But yeah, you mentioned coming from being pretty big, so you're motivated and you're ready to go. That's good, Daniel. James mentions the reason I said to go easy on the exercise is because your body releases cortisol. He mentions Stan Ekberg. I'm not familiar with him, but I know that's true. Here's a question from Epic. What kind of job /field /business would you recommend for someone young? I have an HR channel, HR Whiplash, and I'm about to update it again. It's been such a while. The type of job and field you should do depends on what gives you back the most satisfaction in life. So if you enjoy working with horses or in agriculture, don't say to yourself, oh, well, there's no money in that, or that's the Western way of thinking. Say instead, what is closest can I do for money that is close to what I want to do that gives me back satisfaction? So let's say you enjoy working with animals, just by way of analogy. If you start as, depending on your age, if you start with your working as a veterinarian's assistant, you'll be closer to doing what you love. And then life will, the more experience you get, you'll be doing something that gives you satisfaction. So the big challenge there is you don't have to do all the stuff that people do where they just do a bunch of crappy jobs and then they're told, oh, I need to get a 4-year degree. You don't need to do any of that. In fact, degrees are pretty much out now. Unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer where you have to pass a bar exam and stay accredited, you really don't even need that. You can get involved in sales and marketing and lots of different things where you're adding value. The question is, what do you envision, Epic, of going home? And when you say to yourself, if I did this, when I went home, I would be not tired. I would feel like I've been motivated rather than drained. That's the thing you need to pursue. So me, I enjoy teaching and educating. So I do that in connection with my loss prevention career for hotels. I work and I deal with claims for hotels. So I get to add value. So when the proverbial shiza hits the fan, I'm the one that people rely on. That makes me feel good. So that when I go home with a greater satisfaction than if I was just working, managing a little private security firm somewhere, which I wouldn't enjoy quite as much. So that's just my journey. Your journey, just do what brings you value and don't throw away the blue collar side of things. You pursue, an honest work is honest work. Definitely you want to educate yourself. And because you're young, go way out of your way to say, look, I'm available. Develop a servant mentality. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean the desire to serve. The desire to learn. If you decide you want to get in engineering, find somebody who's where you want to be and say, look, I want you to mentor me. And I want you to show me your secrets. And in return, I'll go get you coffee. I guarantee you, whoever it is that you pick will be flattered that you ask them, and you'll have a heads up on what you want to do. I wish when I started back in the mid 80s, when I got into the work world, I wish I had known that. But instead, my dad, just like my uncle, told me, you have to get out there and put on a hard hat and go and stand on the side of the road. I was the guy who cleaned up the dead dogs on the side of the road. And I got promoted to the guy who does the clinker back at the city cement plant. So I had to work. I was the only white boy there. I'd get burned. The German in me would burn. And I was next to people who were making fun of me. And I thought that I had to do that because it was $6 an hour versus the minimum wage was $4.25 at the time. That was low, but that was where I was. I didn't know. I didn't have any confidence. I didn't know what you know now. So that's pretty much it on that. Please reach out to me if I can give you some pointers on that. Sausage Lord said, thoughts on Big John, the amazing fasting fat man. He used to be over 500 pounds and now he's currently 234. I think I'm familiar with him. He started December 11th of this year. Oh, wait, maybe I don't know about him. Big John. The fasting fat man? 150 straight water fast? Is this it? I'm not familiar with him. I'll look that up and maybe revisit it. Palladium, how to deal with issues of feeling like you are not going to be eating enough? Oh, you just knock it out. It'll help you. So if you have a day where it comes along and you feel like you didn't eat enough at your meal, just forget it. That day you're going to have too little. Just move on. Don't do this thing where you start feeding again, because your brain picks issues like that to try to talk you out of success. So you'll go back and you'll eat and you'll end up eating too much. But when you get those situations where you feel like you have not eaten enough, don't worry about it. Just keep going. and I just move on, like stop eating. There were days I had in my first month when I was doing too extreme. I've told everybody this in 100 different videos now. I ordered a child's Mexican food plate and took 3 spoonfuls of cheesy enchiladas mixed with rice and beans. And I said, this has too many calories. I've got to cut down. And it was so hard because this was El Camila's Mexican restaurant, one of the best in town. And I cut it up and I said, I can't risk going over my calories. So I took 3 spoonfuls. And then I realized my dad said, that was really dumb. Why didn't you just eat the plate? I mean, you'd be okay. And I said, no, I can't do it. So I let all that food go. I didn't even take it with me because I was too afraid of it. That it would, and I was hungry as hell later, but I just kept going. And you'll be all right. Remember the rule about the food. There'll always be more food. You're in a society with too much. Just pass right through it. Does hair, semen, crap, and water hold weight on your body? Oh yeah. I wouldn't think you would count that though. Blood Raven says. I wouldn't think. Yeah, ask about that. I wouldn't worry about it. Eventually, yeah, a lot of the food you ate the day before is still in your intestine tract when you go to weigh. I mean, what are you going to do? Stop? You can't really do it. Who cares? And I've lost my place again. Okay, here we go. Nathalie says, can you please tell me your old schedule of eating when you used to do to lose a weight? I'm on my journey right now. Please tell me a little of your beginning. Well, you don't want to know. My beginning was really, when I started, my first meal time started at 11 a.m. and went through 2, and I would literally eat about 500-600 calories, maybe 700. That's a little bit too low because I was so afraid. I was so determined. And I would eat any junk I could put on my plate. So I don't recommend that. Fill up the plate, normal 10.18 by 1/8 inch plate. Nothing higher than 3 inches, nothing falling off the sides, everything you can make a meal out of. Do the 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And that's it. But that was my first. I didn't change my meal time until about 2 months later. I started eating at nights, in the evening. I moved it between, when did I move it? 6:30 to 10:30, I think. See, I didn't take notes. I don't have the wisdom. I didn't have the wisdom then that I'm giving you guys. Write this stuff down. Write down when you're having cravings. You're going to find that it's only certain hours of every day that you are having cravings. You're not going to be having cravings all the time. So you might think you're hungry all day. You're not. You're really just hungry maybe a total hour out of the day or 2. It's not as bad as you think. It's just mental. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions on that. Adriana says, I serve minority communities daily as a healthcare provider. Many that I serve have tons of comorbidities, yes, and take multiple medications. Many cannot understand the connection between diet and health. They just don't. I have a guy who works for me. His mother had a blood sugar the other day over 1,000. And she's just a big, kidneys are failing, liver is failing, and she doesn't drink. She just enjoys her food. What will it take for some people? Well, some people will close their eyes and sail into eternity and never do anything about it. But you're exactly right. You're more qualified than I am because you deal with that on a daily basis. How many plant-based eaters or intermittent fasters in general do you see in the poor communities? We're not talking about just Black. We're talking about Hispanic or Latino and white as well. How many smoking white trash, quote, white trash types that you see on cops, the people they love to portray as just complete losers? How many of them do you see eating healthy? Or I'm not even normal. Forget healthy, just normal. Almost none, because that's the poverty habits. And people throw around terms like white trash or this trash. It doesn't matter. It's what's in that is the fact that they don't have the same awareness. And yeah, that'll kill them. You bet it'll kill you. Reese's have GMO ingredients in them. You bet they do. They have a lot of, but they're good. They're still Reese's. They're good. It's all right once in a while. You don't need to worry as long as you're not making that your If you have a couple Reese's on your plate, you're just fine. Even if you have a cheat day and have some, you're just fine. If you eat it all the time, you're in trouble. You're going to die. I am an African woman myself, so I'm not singling out any group. Of course not. I understand exactly what you mean. You see exactly what I'm saying because you see it every day. It's a fact. I just had for my hotel here. I just am in the process of doing an A1C check for everybody. I have our clinic come and just do, because people don't realize that you should get checked every year. They just think you get to eat and drink what you want, and that's the American way. You just let yourself go and you die. Look at my video on born stoic and die Epicurean. It's people they just accept that's the way it is, and 100 more will do it, and they'll drive up healthcare costs in the process because everybody has to chip in to do it. And it's really sad that it affects more people than others. In the UK, they have to state GMO ingredients. Really? That's greetings, love your channel. Thanks. Hello, you too. I see your comments frequently on my channel. Thank you. UK Palladium is really developing as bad a reputation now as the US. They used to be a little bit better. Now they're terrible. They're really, really terrible. I have a video on protein shakes and intermittent fasting. For a while during the summer, when I was working on increasing my curl strength, I was doing a 35 gram of protein shake with 3 cans of tuna and a can of salmon with walnuts on the side. Believe you me, I had some good workouts because that much the good thing about protein is you feel really good. If you want to have a protein OMAD day, you have it really together, and then you can get 200 grams of protein pretty easily, and you go and work that out, you will gain, because I gained every workout. I felt stronger. I healed faster. I wasn't sore as long. You can do that. Just be careful of if you're not using it to work out, then it does have negative effect on blood sugar if you're not active. Certain ones, whey protein is the worst on blood sugar. Some of those shakes you have to be careful for because your body has to convert that, and when it does, it's not as efficient. You'll get the worst blood sugar spikes. But I digress. I'll do a separate talk. Walking and occasionally swimming. That's good. Well, let me tell you, with cheap food and fresh ingredients, they can even do the lazy way like me. I'm pretty dang lazy. If you just go to the store and get a tall thing of pinto beans or black beans and a mix of pico de gallo, and you bring them home and wash them, you can have a Cuban meal. You can dump out the beans and rinse out all of the canned stuff, and you can just boil them in distilled water for 5 minutes, and then throw in some onions and then maybe some tortilla chips. You got a Cuban, a Haitian meal that's or I'm thinking of the Cuban meal, and you know what? It's boiled. It tastes a lot better. Then it doesn't taste like canned stuff, so you don't even have to waste time cooking a 4-hour boiling your beans from scratch situation like that. You don't even have to do that. All you have to do, you can go get a rotisserie chicken and do the same thing, and you can have a hearty meal that is nutritional and it's not harmful to you. Me, I've learned to be happy without oils and meats. I can go and have wheat pasta with mushroom spaghetti, and then have a bunch of legumes and starches and rice and my fruits. I'm feeling good. And then I alternate. I do days of protein where I do my fish and whatnot. But you don't have to do that. If you're willing to do lentils and, make sure your levels are good, you can just do a purely vegan way to do it. You can do it. But people don't want to think about it. And of course, that's the problem. It's the consciousness behind it. The environment doesn't help, Adriana. Some of the worst fast food places are in the communities I serve, which is exactly the point. Why do you think in the poorest neighborhoods you see gun shops? Because the powers that be know they're going to kill themselves. That's the sad truth. They're going to kill themselves, and they don't know any better. And you can preach, and you get everybody who gets on hobbies and feelings of injustice and anger with various groups, and they're still going to just kill themselves. They're going to rob, and they're going to demand. Also, it's crazy. That's the poverty world. That's the poverty mindset. That's why it's such a problem. I'm going to do, at some point, and I've said this before, I'm going to do a video on the lowest cost ways to cook 3 or 4 healthy meals. There's stuff that's just pretty easy to do. You don't have to be a cook. I'm not a cook. I'm terrible. But you can do it. And it's, that's the way to turn the corner. OMAD Outlaw, I'm going to jump ahead to OMAD Outlaw's comment. Hey, how you doing? I am basically white trash, but I have a brain. He used to be a preacher. I used to be a very religious person. So I know my parents were not rich all my life, though. They were poor when I was really young. So I became, not that that has a connection really to religion, but I used to be a very religious, really, and I saw a lot of different people in the church with health problems. I've seen tons of a lot of these people that were on the hospice care, that were in the shut-ins, the Wheels on Meals programs, and some of them were just sweet people. But I can view things through the white upper middle class lens. I can also view it through the lower class. I see and have been at bedsides of people who were dying, who had lost their limbs to diabetes, who had suffered complete kidney failure, all of those things. They're a complete reality. In the UK, you don't use much corn syrup? Really? They actually regulate that over there? I learned that in Japan, they do not allow the use of stevia. They think it's poisonous for some reason, but I can't find out why. I have no idea why they think that it's bad. Blood Raven says, dude, a lot of people out of high school and in their 20s that are lost. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it happens. You see now young kids that are 3rd grade and weigh 150 pounds. It's they're really tiny and short, but they're are already having a problem. It happens, and a lot more. But it really happens when you're older in life, and then your body starts wearing out like an old car. Remember, my cousin and I got together when we were still in high school, and bought a Ford Ranger, 95 Ford Ranger. His dad signed for us so we could get it because we didn't have any credit. And of course, it was a new car, so we went out and revved around and sped around, and we power shifted. But eventually, it lasted all until about 8 years. Well, then it wasn't a new car anymore, so the synchro started grinding. It's like that with your body; you wear it out, and then whereas if you had made the corrections when you were younger, you would have easily turned it around, but it's not as easy when you're older. But yeah, it starts. There are people that are 20 years old that have gout-like symptoms and blood sugar issues when they're not even close. And they don't know how to help themselves. They just know that they're getting bullied for their body image issues that like kids do, and they don't know how to do anything. So what do? They hurt themselves. Now, here's the thing about corn syrup. This is the same thing about the Reese's. It's the same thing about anything else. There is really no reason to avoid even that on a normal, inconsistent basis. So if I go to my TimeWise station, which you can see I like here, I don't care if I get a juice that isn't pure, or if I find one of those so-called organic juices. I don't care if it isn't the best quality. Not for that day, because I know that a day later, I'm going to be back here and I'm going to be using my Mueller juicer to juice 5 or 10 carrots. And I'm going to add that to on top of celery and apples. And it's going to be a nice beverage that's much tastier than something I could buy in a store. And in a sense, much tastier than most junk food when you get used to it. So I'm not going to let one thing here destroy me. Your liver is going to burn off. It's not going to keep that as long as you don't keep bombarding. So if you just go for a walk, and I tell people this that have blood sugar problems, if you can't maintain blood sugar, or you have trouble maintaining blood sugar, or you get tired after the meal and you just go for a walk, and then you minimize the impact of processed crap, you won't have those issues. So if you do it once every 2 weeks, you're fine. If you do it once every other day, you're not fine. If you do it once a day, obviously you're not fine. So I just, word of caution, obviously nobody should be buying corn. Nobody should have corn syrup. But it's different to buy it and to make it a regular part of your diet than to occasionally, something happens and you end up getting it. I don't know. Epic, you said something. What did you say? In return, I'll get you. I don't understand the reference there. Nice to see you live. Thank you, Omad Outlaw. Good to see you again. Okay, yeah, James mentioned something just now about the stevia, the stevia in Japan. I do think I remember one article. It had to do with stevia's effect on the liver because of the type they were using had a sugar alcohol in it that for some reason had a negative effect on certain animals. So, and it is the case that if you have a dog right now or a cat in your house, do not ever let them get a hold of Splenda or stevia or any of those, because they will die. Like, they will get an insulin reaction and die because there's no sugar there. But it's not that case with humans. For some reason, the artificial sweeteners, they don't have the same impact. Apparently, Japan does not agree. So, quick thought there while we were talking about different areas. Some areas of the country require prescription for a lot of things. Just like over here in the U.S., going back to the 1800s, that cocaine was in everything. They just didn't know any better. YouTube says, I rarely lost weight until I stopped eating hours before bedtime. I go to bed hungry, but the weight seems to melt off. It really does not matter when you eat, and this has been tested by so many people, including myself. But you may be finding that by eating earlier, you're able to stay more in control and therefore eat less. And I think that's what's mainly helping there. Some people eat at night and they do find they get up the next day, they're still lighter. And I know that a lot of people have done that. So I don't like to eat at night, not too late, not past about 4 hours before my bedtime, because I get nightmares. I start feeling funky. It's a bizarre kind of thing. Thoughts on somebody trying keto OMAD for a week or so, already firmly in the OMAD lifestyle? Depends. Why do you want to try that, Ryan? What is it about keto? Are you having trouble controlling blood sugar? Are you having struggling too much with cravings and you're worried about, you want a little extra edge? Depends on why. I don't recommend getting anything, because you can always cycle on and off a few days. But if you say, I'm going to try it, that implies you're going to dedicate to it for about a month. So if you're not doing that, then you're okay. Also, you have to watch cholesterol on all of these high fat diets. You do have to watch cholesterol because they're going to go up pretty high. Unless you already have high cholesterol, in which case they'll be about the same. But some people, and that's what they're not talking about, you're going to have really high cholesterol if you do actual keto. If you want to go a few days and just eat eggs and cheese, you're fine. But it depends on. I did that the other day. I had a meal, 6 eggs. No, I had like 9 eggs. I did a huge block of cheese. I did 4 cans of sardines and 2 cans of tuna. And you know what? I felt amazing. I did have one glass of sweet tea about an hour after that, just to kind of cap things off. I don't know why I did, but I did. I felt amazing. When I eat fish, or like tuna especially, I feel so good. I don't know what it is. But I wasn't even hungry. Today's meal came. I could have kept going. I didn't even need to eat. I just did anyway. So. I notice, U2 says, I notice you rarely bring up religion and how it plays a part in fasting. Just curious, are you atheist or agnostic? So I will share this with today's group. I was a preacher for 9 years. I preached for 4 different churches in a professional capacity. I have a degree in theology and philosophy, a seminary certification, and I did it in place of college. So I was a very fanatic, as a lot of mad communicators are. I was a very fanatic individual. I was in a very hardline Church of Christ. Hellfire and brimstone, no instruments of music in church. I don't bring that up because it tends to, a lot of people who do fast are religious. And when I have alluded to it before, I got a lot of criticism for it. And I started to realize, well, maybe it doesn't really matter. I'm kind of more animist, pantheist now. Most people would consider that pretty much atheism, but I consider myself I don't know if mystic is the right word, but atheist for pretty much all practical purposes. I believe that the divine speaks I believe that what we can call it either way. I think atheism, as it is strictly defined, can be a valid view of the world, but I believe that I'm more of a Buddhist, an atheist with a Buddhist slant. So, but I have found that none of the churches, religion, holy books, gods, all of those things were insufficient to explain the world. So one of my biggest passions is astronomy. I love understand. One of my favorite thinkers is Alan Watts. I have found that it is all humans that make up these controversies. I don't think there's a conflict. I think you can be an atheist, and I think you can be a believer of any kind. I'm no longer at war with it. And I have a book for those of you who are interested in the subject. It's called Project Bible Truth, A Minister Turns Atheist and Tells All. And it is still for sale on Amazon, no less. I don't care if you buy it. I would rather you not, because I was a younger, angrier man at the time. But if you want to analyze my thinking and why I left Christianity, it's all there in 400 pages. Everything from contradictions to logical issues to arguments. And I used to be the type of guy, the way Vegan Gains is now is the way I used to be. I used to go way into the heart of enemy territory and debate everybody senselessly. And every time I look at Vegan Gains, I follow his channel because he's so entertaining and educational sometimes. That's how I was 20 years ago. I would go and argue incessantly, and I would pin someone down. And I used to think that I was really wise doing that. I now know that that's silly, because you can't have one without the other. You cannot have belief without non-belief. Everything, I'm a dualist, basically. So thank you for that question. I know it's a deep question, and a lot of people don't like it. Remember, I'm not discounting anything. I know you mentioned here you were a preacher as well, OMAD Outlaw, right? I went to Bible school and was a street preacher. I jumped down again. Where am I? Yeah, I am basically. Those are two comments I already read. But so I try not to get into that because uh, I'm I'm past that. I'm no longer at war with God, and I believe that God, however a person wants the term to mean, applies to you and the universe as a whole. And I don't see a contradiction with that. I don't see desperation. Uh, I walked away from at the time I was making, which for a minister was a good salary. I was making 48,600 a year. Um, Not bad, not terrible. And I left in 2003. So I changed careers because I said I cannot, tell people that they're going to hell if they don't believe a certain message. Um, I can't do that. But that's my past. But that's the thing that defines me is no matter what I do, I'm still helping people. I'm still a counselor. So you see, God still speaks. You see why I'm not for or against because what is, and I don't think we can put a label on it either way. I'll leave that alone for now. When I pass fast food shops, they all stink to me after detoxing myself. Only rotisserie chicken or barbecue joints. That's good. Yeah, it starts to you break your mental dependence on it, and then you realize it's really not that great. We don't grow corn like you do in the U.S. That's true because over here the Native American population it's a different story. It's corn used to was where it's at. I love corn. I don't care if it's bad or what, but I can really enjoy it and it agrees with me. OMAD Outlaw says now I preach OMAD on YouTube because it saved my life. Yeah. All food stresses you. OMAD is but fasting is our best protection. Well, that's it. It's just common sense. You don't overeat. You give your body the chance to keep up. And if you've been too long and you've been overweight, like most people who find this channel have been, you have to restrict so that your body will get the message to downsize. Pretty easy, right? Pretty simple. It was more of a trial thing. I'm in the weight loss phase, Ryan says. I think this was in reference to his keto comments. Was mostly curious if it would accelerate the weight loss. I'm fine with the rate now. No, it will not accelerate weight loss. In fact, you'll lose less weight. Most people find this out. If you do a normal carb approach and eat normally, you'll lose faster. You just will. And plus, anytime you restrict, if it's more than just a few days, your body's going to create a debt, and your body's going to try to get you to go back to it. So then you're going to have a few days where you start to want to go on sweets again, and that's what happens. I had a woman get so mad at me because I discouraged her keto, and I tried not to. I said, do what you want, but she got so mad at me because I could not tell her that she honestly wanted to eat eggs and ham every day and brisket every day. And I said, if that works for you, go ahead and do it. But it wasn't working, and she was getting cravings and so she didn't fat adapt. Like a lot of people don't on that. They don't fat adapt to where they start burning. They instead they go for a routine check, and the doctor says, "Oh, your cholesterol's jumped 40 points." And so I keep seeing negative on it. But again, eat the way that is most balanced for you. I use 3 eggs, and I think it's too much. James says, I have used an entire carton. I've used 12 eggs before. That was a little bit much because I started to get kind of cough it up. It was a little bit much, but I have done that. I don't do that often, and I don't even like eggs as much anymore. I do flesh food about once a week or twice a week of any kind, and then I go plant-based again. I'm just in a zone where I can try things within the OMAD parameters. Right, nothing wrong with that. OMAD Outlaw says, I have been eating high fat for close to 4 years and my blood work is fantastic. Okay. What did it start as? What did your cholesterol start as, if you care to share? This is the difference there. Some people don't realize that if you start with a cholesterol of about 220, 240, and you start eating a lot of plant products, it'll go down just slightly or stay in the same range. But if you're about 160, it's going to go to 180 or 200. If you're 150 or 130, it's going to go away. It's going to go up even more because you have less. So that's what most people find anyway. If you're not, then you don't have a problem with it, then go right on. And on another tangent, I believe that quote by Will Durant you mentioned earlier, I think insane works with the Epicurean ending too. Go back and watch the Epicurean Stoic video if you didn't understand Ryan's reference there. Go, Jordan Maxwell theology. And deception. I tell my friends and family, James is saying this here, to do, oh man, and when I explain how I did it, they all tell me we are all different. How we are all different, we're not all human. Yeah, ultimately people do that, and that's a fallacy. They say, oh, my body's different. Oh, wait a minute now, does gravity not pull you down? Do your blood vessels not expand when you eat a fatty meal? Yes, they do. They expand just the same as anybody else. Yeah, no, what they're really trying to tell you is they couldn't do that. So if you tell them I eat once a day, and they say I could never do that. But they're not. That's what they mean when they say that. And you know what? If they don't, then don't give them a hard time about it. Just don't worry about it at all. Just move along because they're not ready to do it. And who cares? It's their own journey. Alyssa says, hi, Joe. Did you have gains after a cheat day? And if so, how long before you saw a drop again? This messes with my head a bit. And it should. I can remember having a day. First of all, I had a day, the first big cheat day I had losing weight was at a barbecue place, I think. I just ate like so much food, and then I felt like taking a nap for like 4 hours. But the scale was the same the next day. There was really no loss. If you're talking about like a serious cheat day, like eating once, eating twice, eating 4 or 5 times and keeping going, yeah, you're going to see about a 12-pound jump because all that food is in your intestines. So you get up and you say, okay, well, I need to put, I started to say after I got down to about 185, my family said, you're getting too thin, so start eating again. And then I started to do that, but I didn't know how to balance it. So I would go out and have a Chinese dinner, and then I would go and say, is that enough? Because when I would go out and pig out on like Mexican food or something, my weight would still be going down. It would be up for a day or two, but then it would go right back down. So I'd get up and it would be like 2 pounds heavier on the scale. And it would keep going that way until I really pushed it one time. I'm trying to think of a recent example. I had it do once. Okay, yeah, I was at 185 and I pigged out so much. We went out to eat that morning at a Thousand Oaks Mexican restaurant in San Antonio, Mexican cafe. And then that day we had I ate so much that I hated my life. It felt like the old days and I felt immediately ashamed. But the next, let's see, I got back up I went from 185 to 198.8. So I put on like a lot but it of course didn't stay there. It went back down to 190 after a few days. So my point is your body will usually hold weight for about 2 days to 3 after you do if you really go on a bender, which I don't recommend too often, but you can do that. And what you're going to find is the more you do that, you'll just develop a set point. So you'll keep dropping and you'll finally stay in a range. So that's why I say your disagreement or your struggle with what you really weigh, it shouldn't be a struggle. The number you keep seeing on the scale in between your whatever it keeps coming down to, that's pretty much it. So that's really your weight. So even if you keep stuffing yourself, that's not your real weight. So you don't need to worry about that. But that's the way your body works. But you can't remember, you already have the tools to take off the weight. Let's say you gain 10 pounds, which you can't on a splurge, on any splurge. But let's say you did. You already have the tools to take it off. So it's not an issue that is insurmountable to you. I've been trying to gain weight, and I tried the other day on Halloween. I went out and I ate as much as I possibly could, and I did that with the cousins and everything. I briefly got up to about 226, but it came right back off. So I was back down to 212 in a couple days, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stay just over 200. And again, the challenge is you can't really gain muscle if you're at a deficit. So even if you're getting protein, it's really hard to do. So your body is going to speak to you. Your body is going to keep you at a number, at a certain range, and you'll know because if you keep pushing, you'll eventually go above it. But the only way you keep pushing is if you have a bad attitude toward food. If you're failing, if your life is out of control, because that's how you got fat. If you come from being fat. And so that's why, for me, I've gone back and forth because a lot of my hangy skin, my loose skin is on my face. I've considered gaining about 50 pounds. I don't want to, but I have considered increasing my strength training. I go, just like you guys, I go through all the same ups and downs. But I already know I don't have myself to impress anymore, so I don't have to worry about, if I'm carrying too much weight. I do what makes me happy, what makes me most productive, what I can balance with Super Joe versus normal everyday Joe, because that's where the happiness is. And that's what being a religious extremist taught me you can't have. You can be a fundamentalist, you can be a zealot of any type, but it's self-destructive. So if you find what works for you, that's your source of happiness. A doctor can tell you should be at a certain weight, but ultimately, that may not be the goal for you. So I hope that helps on your question there. You've got the tools to succeed. I can tomorrow say, hey, I'm going to be 180 pounds, 170 pounds, and I can start doing what I did, but that would be counterproductive at this point in my life. And it would not be the best thing. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some insight there. Don't worry about seeing scale numbers. Again, you guys who are weighing every day, you're actually goofing. You're actually not doing the best thing because you're going to discourage yourself, because of course you're going to see a bump in weight if you just got done eating 2 pizzas or whatever you can eat. You go out and eat a ton of ice cream and a bucket of chicken. Yeah, it's in your body. It's going to stay there a while. It's not going to miraculously disappear on you. I tell my friends, we already covered that. People have such a negative stigma on canned foods, but I love it, and it's so cheap. Yes, it is. And as long as you rinse them, it's already cooked for you. I mean, just rinse them in fresh water, and I throw in some flaxseed on top of mine to match omega-3 ratios, and you know what? I got no problem with it at all. You can even get canned squash, because squash is a mess to make. I in my pantry right now, I'm out again, but I had a whole bunch. So I just pop it open. I have a meal right there. Now, some days I'll go all out and I'll bring out the big bean cooker, and I'll do like a big bag of beans and sort it and do all that if I'm here all day. But I won't always do that if I don't need to. Matt Outlaw says, I never had a problem with saturated fats, but I have almost got off blood pressure meds and I still have about 40 pounds to lose. Oh, you'll knock that off, man. And your blood pressure will drop another 5 points. I don't know what it's at right now, but I'm going to go back. I'm scheduled pretty soon for a blood panel. Very soon. So I'm going to be able to do a video on that. Funny thing about OMAD, I crave plain white rice and bananas. So do I. For instance, neither of which I ate or craved prior. Yes, I did that. That and strawberries and blueberries. That together with what you mentioned, Ryan, your body develops a healthy relationship with sugar because your liver is not storing all of that processed fat. So you have a way to store it. Excuse me. I'm going to finish off this tea. So I started on some of these comments on my channel. I guess there's really no point in finishing. We got a few questions here. Um, for 2 years, I mainly ate crisps and chocolate bars for 80% of my quote food. Luckily, it would appear that I had good genes. No, here's the thing. Berg did a video just now on potato chips actually have less of an impact than um, like potato wedges, like French fries and stuff like that. You get a bigger insulin response and more negative levels than potato chips. So potato chips are actually a healthier choice, apparently. Isn't that crazy? You would think they'd be just complete junk. But if you're living your life so that you never have quote junk or quote food, then you're not very balanced. So I think you're doing a really good job. Lord, I routinely eat instant potatoes with canned peas and a canned soup all in one pot and feel great. Yeah, it's fine. You'll be all right. It's hard not to weigh every day. Ginger says that's the compulsion, but if you can not do it, you're going to find that it'll have a blessing. Panda says, can teenagers do OMAD? How old teenagers? Like 16, 17, or like 12, preteen, like 12, 13? Or I would recommend 2 meals for kids that are still in school. Uh, one large, one small, and then control sugars and all snacking out the day. You'll find that that'll be enough for kids. You want to keep them in balanced, social, normal eating in balance. You have to do it discreetly. You should not do it compulsively. Like you should not, otherwise you'll give them a body image issue. But if let's say that's you, Panda, and you're 17 or something, yeah, 16, you can do OMAD. You could. That's just old enough to where you can start eating once a day. I wouldn't do it before about probably 17 because you don't need to, depending again if you're asking for someone or that's you. Um, but remember, you don't want to, when you're growing, you don't want to starve your body for nutrients, especially stuff like protein. So that's why you don't need to when you're really young. But you'll find with all children, it's really just about always true. If you control portions, one in the morning, it can be like a couple pieces of fruit or something, and then one in the evening, actual meal, they'll lose weight. No sugar, no snacking in between. That'll be enough because their body's going to bounce back very fast. James says, my working partner lost weight from a conventional dietitian. He lost weight for 6 months. He did well, but now I see him eat and nibbling from the time we start to finish. I noticed he is blowing up. Well, that's the way it is with most people who nibble. Nibblers gain weight. Sausage Lord said, just stocked up on canned corn and it's only 50 cents. Yes, you can go to the store and buy. I buy a pico de gallo and those beans, like the big tall cans, so that you can make more and it's easier. And then I get corn, I get cabbage, I get field peas, which are my favorite of all. And they don't have the negative effects that most legumes do. And I go crazy. And then, of course, so those are just used. You don't even need anything with it. Just use broth or something to make it taste a little bit more normal. Your friend is in denial, James. The guy who's, yeah, of course, that's the way people tend to be. Uh, I get the great value brands and haven't been sick since 2017, and Homemade helps and saves tons of money. Oh, it does. On splurge days, you can go to a buffet for an OMAD, and it's like $10. Yeah, it depends on where you go. I have these Chinese places near my house, and they are really, um, really. I mean, it's like comes with tax and a tip. It's like $15, but that's still if you're going to go out and splurge, nothing wrong with that. I have the tools and I know that I am in control now. Excellent. You're right on that, Ryan. About $1,000. You save on OMAD eating it's about $1,000. It's about $990. I added it up. It's really that easy. You'll save a ton of money. How long does it take to be 260 to go from 200 to 200 pounds? Well, if you assume a 2 pound loss a week, you don't want to do more weight than about 200. I mean, 2 pounds per week loss. 1.5 is fine. So just add that up. How many weeks would it take? Um, I'm not good with math in my head. So let's say what, 8 months, something like that. That's pretty average. Here we go. 27. See, look what you guys do. 27 kilograms. I don't know what that is in pounds. I don't know what it is. 59 pounds. Okay. We U.S. are a strange lot. I used to believe the U.K. was a strange lot, but we come from ultimately over here, come from the U.K. And you always say potato wedges. Those are chips. We call them chips. You're the right on that. Football, soccer, all of those. I had a friend from the UK years ago I used to talk with every day, and he was so funny because he would point that out to me, and I'm like, yeah, he convinced me. He's like, the UK has the proper terminology. It's the US that doesn't. So what I would say, Dan T, is this. You have to ask yourself why, what were the circumstances that you put it back on? You can start again tomorrow. In fact, if you know you need to, you have to know, first of all, why you didn't do that. Because if you have competing commitments, you're going to start working against yourself. And that's why people that often fall off don't get back on, because they didn't make peace with the competing commitments. So their minds are just doing other things. They're saying, well, I don't really want it. Ultimately, if you don't really want it, you're not going to do it. You're going to fall off again because you're going to do that. But if you can start, there's no question. It'll work the same as it did, but you cannot be at war with yourself on that. I miss what you guys do. I see you guys, all this positive talk, all this fun. I don't. I miss going. I want to do that. I want to wake up and say, no, we're done eating for the day. But I'm not in a position where it's the same for me now. So it's different, and that's why this sort of thing is. You have to look at your own self, your own life, and ask yourself, what are your commitments? Why did you just get careless after that? Was it just something? It's only you know that. I do not believe that chips are healthier, and they are advertised baked companies, not fried. Trust me, they still fry them. Oh, I know. I mean, they're not healthy, but they may be less of a blood sugar impact, is all Bird was saying. Anyway, I mean, it is what it is. You should Nobody should be having too much, because what do chips do? They're addictive, and they don't help you do anything. They don't help you get satiated. They don't. They're just a treat. I hit up local Chinese buffets too a few times a week. People laugh, but it's very possible to make good choices there. Absolutely it is. White rice, lots of veggies, some salmon, avoid sauces, fruit is dessert. Yes, you absolutely can do it. Man, it's the same principle anywhere. That's what we've accomplished for nearly 2 hours of talking here. You can make these kinds of choices. And then when you're done, you say, hey, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done for today. And even if you do go and you add in sweet and sour sauce, you're treating yourself, because most of what you're eating is stir fry. So if you go and you say, I'm going to pick off, the shrimp here, I'm going to pick off the bell peppers. Yeah, there's some oil on it. Not all of it's healthy, but it's still you're reaching the level you need to reach. So that's why it's really not to worry. That's why I'm not too militant on food snobbery, like people very often get up on tangents about stuff like that. Found maintenance difficult after reaching your goal? Is it what about the maintenance? Was it the fact that you didn't know what to do with yourself then, or did you? Because if you successfully got to where you wanted to go, you already know you have the tools to get there, or you had the tools to get there. So that it's not a stress factor. It's just the fact that from reading what you said, it's just an issue with you didn't really plan. You didn't see OMAD as an extension of your overall betterment. You just saw it as a way, a hack to reach your success. Um, so I think that, but that depends on you. Ryan says potatoes once cooled, much of the carbs turn to resistant starch. That is true. That is definitely true, and I think that's what they said. If you eat a potato, or if you juice it or whatever you want to do, you could do it all day, and it's not going to get any reaction. But because it's not broken down, when you break down the starches, why? That's the difference between that and the potato chip. If someone is 260 trying to go to 200, do they need to exercise? No, just do the same thing. Keep it a steady deficit. Track your progress. Record your progress. Can completely do it. When get vitamin D in terms of like for the sun, walk, do normal activity. You don't need to do any serious exercise. Remember, the more you exercise, the harder you tax your body, the more you're going to get hungry. Thank you, Dan. No problem. It's you got this. Saladium asked a question. Can I ask a personal question? Did all your fat start to go really flabby under your skin when you started losing weight? Not for a while, but I was younger then, and so now there are areas. Everybody who's lost a lot of weight that still has a little bit of flubs calls it kind of dead fat. I think everybody has that. You get areas where your body uses up all that it can, but for whatever reason, your fat cells have turned to cysts and they've isolated various poisons in your body. Which is why, by the way, some people losing weight end up getting sick because as their body's digesting old materials, it's kind of recycling. I do have places on my body, right here, you guys have seen, I carried so much weight in my face. A lot of my skin is very loose, and it's probably the most noticeable thing because people think I'm a lot older for it. And I know it's not their fault. It's just something that they do. People's bodies react differently to weight loss. And it's just one of those things. You count the cost. You say, is it worth being able to go up 5 flights of stairs and fit into normal size clothes versus having a little bit of skin? See what I mean? I think it's worth it. But some people don't, and they're not ready. I've only lost 40 odd pounds and need to lose at least another 100 pounds. Okay. It's you may have, depending on how much collagen you may have, if you're done, you may end up needing surgery for loose areas. I don't know. You might reach out to me on that without getting too personal here on the live stream. I have areas on my body that are not, I'm putting on weight purposely. So I'm not as worried about it because I want to look, I don't want to look frail. I don't want to look weaker. And I want to make sure I have the necessary muscle mass, but I would advise everybody's situation is different. My waist, I was a little bit concerned about it first, but mainly my face was mine. So yours may be troubling to you, but you know what? When people, when you have a big weight loss story to tell, guess what? People are like, so what? You know what I mean? So it's totally okay to have some some droopy skin. Who cares? I mean, really, is your goal to go be a model at a fitness competition? No, it's to enjoy your life. You absolutely got it. I mean, you absolutely don't need to worry about it. But if you want a little more on that, we can talk privately. Sausage alert. So you're 26. So I have many years to do OMAD. I'm currently 28. Oh, 28 now. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, you're real young. You've got 11 years of super productive. You're in your strength. So you get yourself in. You're at it, man. You've got it. You don't need anything else. I already just put you on the. Giving you some confidence. You're ready to go. I know what you're talking about, Palladium. It's not exactly loose skin, but it's the collagen. It's the collagen. That's why the younger and heavier a person is, their fat looks solid. And when they're later in life, their body tends to, for whatever reason, target the collagen, or collagen gets lost. I don't really understand the process. No, James, just what we were saying here. Loose skin depends on the individual. There are people that lost 80 pounds, 40 pounds, and had loose skin, and there are people that lost 170 and had very little, if none. I don't understand why, and I've studied different weight loss strategies to see what really has been done, and I can't see a clear correlation. Uh, let's go through two. Let's go through. Let's do 2 hours. We're at one. We're at 1 hour 46 minutes. Let's go ahead and go through. I'll go ahead and go through 2 hours. How can people feel less hungry while fasting? And the answer is you push through it. You don't try to, you adjust through it. You don't try to feel less hungry, because that means you're dodging. And that means when you do face serious hunger, you're going to, um, you're going to cave. So what you do is you want it to be difficult so that you can break in, and your body will start, you'll get into hunger high, you'll get ultra focused, you'll get hyper strong, you'll get hyper determined and vigilant. Your adrenals will kick in, and you'll start running on your body fat rather than, um, allowing yourself to come move in and out of it. Not, then that's what happens. People, they try to dodge hunger, so they end up not going the distance. Don't worry about that. You're not going to be. You can chew ice. You can follow my tips. Chew ice. Drink hot water. Um, Limit your stimulants, but don't over exercise. Do stuff like that to keep your hunger at a normal level. Just kind of take days for you. Take personal days. Get plenty of sleep. Get some sunshine. Do the things that put your life in balance that I've talked about literally all over the place, and you will be. You will do everything as you'll be in the best place you can be. Ryan says, sadly, I'll never look good in a Speedo. Then again, who looks good in a Speedo? This kernel of truth motivates me. Man, there's no, who cares? How many people, except for a brief phase in their life, go to the beach and try to look good for everybody? It's just not something you do when you're out of high school. You don't care, and nobody cares. When you go to the pool, it's not something that somebody thinks about. You see a middle-aged guy or middle-aged gal at the pool, you always see those gals with the really big midsection, and they have the swimsuit that covers it. Do you stop and think about it? No, you don't. You just go there to have a good time. That's the thing. And I'm seeing on the internet, and I get guys that contact me, and they're into this alpha male BS. Ooh, I've got to be an alpha male. I've got to have washboards, washboard abs, and I've got to have, these guys that are being taught all this stuff, and it's usually the guys. The ladies just kind of get insecure in their own, but the guys have their own insecurities, and it's just as despicable. Nobody cares. So you go and you get your body at a healthy weight so that you can be your most productive version. And then what do? You're done. You go on living. Yeah, people will see your body's not perfect, but look at how many things you can't control in life. You cannot make one hair black or white. It's really that way. So I do hope that Ryan, that's not something that you struggle with, because so many, people are afraid. I can pick apart my body in the mirror and say, I don't like this, I don't like that. But ultimately, I know that that phobia is in my mind. It's not in anybody else's mind. Yeah, 40 pounds is a great loss. That's like I said, pick up when we started the live stream today. You pick up a dumbbell that's 40 pounds. That's a lot of weight. I'm thankful to have found your channel too. We covered that. Let's see. Hi, Julie. How are you doing? Yeah, it's kind of a surprise. I just popped on and decided to reconnect. At some point, I'll get steady again. Here's a question. Does fasting help the body to, quote, consume loose skin? You know what? I'm not convinced that it does. I'm really not convinced that it does. I don't think, uh, and I've had people say uh, things like, well, your body regenerates. Yes, it regenerates to a degree, but it's not going, there are some things that will be with your body because your body reached peak efficiency already. It's not going to be able to handle it. And I'm trying to think. I just now got rid of us. It took 3 years to go away. I had a scab from a kid who ran into me with his skateboard. Well, I did lots of fasting, including dry fasting since then. It didn't go away overnight. It didn't, just disappear. I think a lot of that is hype. I think it's sensationalism. So I don't necessarily think that that's true. James says, I see middle-aged men have big guts. They look bloated like a balloon, and why is that? Well, they're declining, and they're making a lot of insulin, and then as they age, they start blocking their insulin from overconsumption, and as a result, their body can't have the sugar in the blood, so it puts it in storage, hence a gut. And then they start carrying water because they're in the process of making still more fat. So you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you see people just walking around. They look like they have a water suit on, and that's part of that's aging, but mostly it's not caring for themselves. There's no mystery to it. I am 59 and I have lost about 80 pounds. OMAD Outlaw says I have lost so many ways, but I didn't have control until I started OMAD. And that's the biggest thing, it's control. So lady even says you should only compare yourself with yourself, not anyone else. It's true, because people are going to, when they see the new you, they see that you've lost weight, they're going to love because what you do is something that is that most people don't do. Sumeria asks, can I do this diet with hypothyroidism? Do you have Hashimoto's or standard hypothyroidism? I would say definitely yes. It depends on, in fact, you may find that you have to because your metabolism will slow down and you will start to gain weight very easily. So you'll need to have a method in place to control yourself. That said, you also need to treat the hypothyroidism or you're going to suffer needlessly. And I'm getting my thyroid checked again pretty soon this week to make sure it has how it's doing. Because I've had inconsistent numbers before, and I need to. I'm fixing to get those checked. That's so good to hear, Julie. I still get your messages on MyFitnessPal, uh, and we exchange a word or two. I still show up there, and we have the forums for those of you who are. I think all of y'all know about the forums. Forums.omad.info. I need to update my site again. omad.info for the organization, the main site. Sumeria, tell me about your symptoms. What kind of symptoms are you having? Some people have hypothyroid numbers and they don't have any complications. Other people don't have any numbers or labs that suggest it, but they have all of the symptoms. So it is usually a reaction of the immune system, and it's something that once you figure out how you can reverse by just putting your body at ease, but I don't know. Sometimes that's not going to help. Sometimes you're just going to have to take medication. Uh, yeah, you should. Let's see. You have to figure that out. So it's one of the things that is challenging to do. And you get a situation like any autoimmune disorder is going to be much more challenging to conquer, because if your body ends up fighting with itself, then uh, it's a different world than if you have to look and say, how did I create something like this? And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. I have so much family history with autoimmune disorders, so I may not be out of the woods yet. For all that I do here, I may not be. I may not be done. So ultimately, you have to be prepared for what you can and cannot change. But I would definitely not. Remember, you can never not have an eating control mechanism in order. So we're getting a little bit close to the time, so let's go ahead and close out, and we will do it again soon. Y'all have a great night.